What are some questions to ask in an interview? I have designed the content of this video to ensure that you land an awesome job. My name's Chad Littlefield. Let's get into it. This video is about you, not about me, but one thing you might want to know about me and my co-founder and partner in crime, Will Wise, is that we wrote a book called Ask Powerful Questions, Create Conversations That Matter. And that is the purpose of asking questions in an interview. It's to create a conversation that matters. Somebody told me once that really interviews is just a 1 hour period where two people lie to each other for 60 minutes. In some ways that's true. The person who's hiring is saying, oh, this position's so amazing, I check it out. And in some ways you're sharing the absolute best of who you are, but you're maybe not sharing that, like, you know, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, like you're not feeling too motivated, you're not really too productive, and you expect that to be true in this job. Like, you're not gonna share that in an interview. And so it's kind of like two highlighters meeting each other for the first time, as opposed to two boxes of crayons that are a little bit more three-dimension. I think I mixed some metaphors there. You got the idea. And so while I could give you, here's a list of 5 questions to ask in an interview, that's a boring blog somewhere else on the internet. What I'm gonna do in this video is teach you 3 types of questions to ask in an interview, because by far the absolute best question that you can possibly ask in an interview is the one that you come up with right in the moment on the spot. Along with these 3 categories, I'll also give you some really concrete examples of questions you might want to take into your next interview as well. Get your notepad ready. Question type number 1 are empathetic questions. I learned this the hard way. I used to actually teach dialogue facilitation at Penn State University, and so I teach people to ask questions of groups. One way that we would teach people is invite them to leave the classroom and go ask and build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers by asking questions rooted in their natural curiosity. And so it created all these experiences. I didn't believe in preaching something that I wasn't practicing, and so this one particular day I was teaching a class, I really didn't want to do this exercise, right? It's like, I've kind of done this before, I'm not really into this, I just want to hang out in my comfort zone. But I figured, okay, if I had to do this to stay in my own integrity, I might as well get something done. And so I went down to the convenience store, and as I'm checking out, there's this woman who's got bright colored tattoos all over her neck. And I look at her and I'm like, oh, it's like so easy. I teach people how to ask questions. This is gonna be no problem. And I get up to the cash register and I say, hey, I'm just so curious, what's the story behind your tattoos? And her response was, I like the colors. She didn't have quite as deep a voice as that, but her response was, no relationship of trust built there, right? That was like the politically correct version of flipping me off and saying, get out. So we get back to the room and one of my students comes back, he's like, quiets everybody down. He's like, all right, I have to tell you about this experience. I really didn't want to do this exercise, but I figured if I had to, I might as well get something done while I'm at it. And so I walk down to the convenience store, and as I'm checking out, there's this woman with bright colored tattoos all over her neck. And I look at her and I just say, hey, I'm really curious. How annoying does it get when people ask you about your tattoos? She just starts gushing. She's like, oh, you have no idea. Some days I'm like, I want to wear a turtleneck in the middle of August. Some days I wish I never got them. In fact, there was just this guy in here asking me, what's the story behind your tattoos? The learning here that you can steal from my failure and use it to get a job is the difference between his question and my question, my failure and his success. His question was rooted in empathy. My question was totally rooted in my own curiosity. It was like, I selfishly want to know this. You're a person that I just want to harvest information from right now. Not a great mindset to head into an interview. And so imagine, what is your interviewing thinking about? What are they caring about? What are they concerned about? What's on their plate, right? You know, this interview with you might be like the highlight of your month or your week because you're in the middle of a job search. For them, it might just be 1 out of 5 meetings they're kind of cruising through. And so think about, what is it that they care about? And can you ask a question rooted in that level of empathy? Because if you do, that person will feel so extremely seen, heard, and understood, it's quite likely you'll build a solid relationship of trust with them in a very quick amount of time. The second type of questions are curious questions. So now that we've laid this foundation of empathy, of like, yes, all questions should be rooted in empathy, now you can really tap into your natural curiosity. And in particular, I'll give you 3 steps for this one. Notice, wonder, and inquire. So if you want to ask really phenomenal questions in an interview context, when you walk into that building or you jump onto that Zoom call, or if it's a phone interview, what are you hearing? What are you noticing? Can you wonder about it? and ask a question rooted in your own curiosity. The best tip I have to practice that reliably is to take the focus that you're probably entering in an interview, which is like me, what am I gonna say to this? How am I gonna respond to this? How are they gonna like me? How are they gonna see me? Are they gonna hire me? And flip it. Think about what are you curious about them. Shift your perspective to a more others-centered perspective and ask questions rooted in your natural, genuine curiosity. Notice everything that's around you, everything that they're saying, everything that their reactions. Wonder about it, get curious about it, convert that wondering and that curiosity into a sentence that ends in a question mark, and let it flow out of your mouth. In the book, whenever we explain, like, really great questions tend to begin with words like how and what and not, why or do or does or did, right? So we get really technical with that. But the point is, in my experience and from the students that I've taught who have come back and said, hey, this thing that you taught me about how to ask questions and how to really connect and relate to people, it helped me get a job at Google. It helped me get a job at Johnson & Johnson. It helped me get a job at fill in the blank, whatever they were going for. And the reason wasn't because they asked the perfectly crafted question that they read on an internet blog. The reason that they got the job was because they were genuinely naturally curious about something they noticed in the present moment, and they converted that into a question. Curiosity gets pretty rewarded in most organizational cultures. And if it's not rewarded, then you don't want to work there to begin with. The third type of questions that you want to ask are design thinking questions. So my Master's of Education degree is in design thinking and learning design in particular. And in every great design thinking model, from Stanford's model to any other design thinking model that you come across, there are essentially 3 phases. Each model has their own nuance to it, but a core part of good design thinking is starting with the problem, not the solution. And so oftentimes in an interview, you're coming in with a great desire to be helpful, to offer value, to contribute value. And sometimes the questions you want to ask in an interview are actually a little bit more problem focused. What are their challenges? And so a question like, if you had a magic wand to make one little issue go away in this organization, what would it be? Or a question like, if you were to hire me into this role and I showed up on day 1 with a magic wand to fix or adjust something and make it better, what is that challenge? What is that problem? What is that struggle? And so really good design thinking questions focus all on the problem. Einstein once said, and I'm gonna butcher his exact quote, but he essentially said, if I was given an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes coming up with the right questions and 5 minutes on the solution. Or I'd spend 55 minutes asking about the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. I would invite you to use, maybe not as extreme of a ratio, but a similar ratio of really focus in on what are they trying to solve. They're hiring for a role. They're going to pay someone tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a particular job. Like, they have some need, they have some problem, they have some something. And the more nuance that you uncover about that, you both learn about some of like the messy back end of the job that you might be stepping into to make sure, like, is this really a role you want to step into? Or is this too much of a dumpster fire of a job and you're not really interested in it? And asking questions that dig up people's root problems is a great service to someone. So it's actually offering value right away by giving and offering some clarity about what it is they're actually trying to solve and address. Hope you like these 3 questions. There's lots more. Free excerpt of the book in the description. I'm Chad Littlefield. I post these videos to help leaders and educators make connection and engagement easy. Go get a job you love. Have an awesome day.